Hi everyone, I'm Ara Ogorian with ACap Advisors and Accountants, and welcome to another edition of the ACap Recap, where we go behind the blog and answer some of your questions. Today we're going to talk about trusts. What is a trust? Do I need a trust? And when you do not need a trust? We're also going to talk about probate. What is probate? And then lastly, we're going to finish off on whether or not you need an attorney to create a trust. But before we begin, remember to like, subscribe, and share our videos. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover, please make sure you mention it in the comment below or send us a question in the comments or in a contact. As a financial advisor and a CPA, the most common question that I get are, do I need a trust? What is a trust? And it's also the most common referrals that we make out to other professionals. There are so many different types of trusts. There are GRATs, CLATs, ILITs, generation skipping trusts, revocable trusts, irrevocable trusts, the list goes on and on. But today we're only going to talk about the living revocable trust because it's the most commonly used type of trust. So what is a revocable living trust? Think of it as a separate legal entity that you create, you as the settlor or the grantor, and then you fund that trust with your assets. You basically transfer the ownership of those assets into your trust, whether if it's your home, your brokerage account, or any other asset that you have into the name of the trust. But because it's revocable, you still have control over it. So for example, if you transfer your brokerage account into the trust, you can still buy and sell trades in your account without any problem. Or for example, if you transfer your home into the trust, you can still continue to live in it, you can refinance it, you can sell it. There's no restrictions on what you can do, even though it's in the name of the trust. Whether or not you need a trust, that really depends on your circumstances, which we'll go into next. The next question I often hear is, do I need a trust? Aren't they only for wealthy people and people with a ton of assets? The answer is no. Whether or not you need a trust, again, depends on your circumstances, but don't assume that it's only for wealthy people. Most people also assume that a trust is only to avoid probate, which is true, but a trust is so much more than that. So trusts are super efficient if you want to do certain things with your assets. So for example, if you want to only give your assets to only certain people that you like, you can do that. So if you had 5 children or 5 siblings and you only wanted to give them to only 4, you can do that in a trust, whereas if you didn't have it, you would not be able to do that. Also, you can give your assets to people at a certain age or at a certain event. What I mean by that is, let's assume that you and your spouse have assets and you have kids, and you only want them to have the assets once they reach the age of 35 or once they graduate from graduate school. You can do that in a trust, whereas you can't really do that if you did not have a trust in place. So as you can see, a trust is a super powerful vehicle to really controlling your assets after you have passed. Whereas without a trust, you really can't do that. You don't have you have that limitation. So we just talked about what is a trust and when you might need a trust. But now I want to talk about some instances where you may not need a trust. Let's assume that you're single, you have no dependents, you have no assets. In those situations, a formalized estate plan or a trust may not be the right thing for you. You could probably accomplish what you're trying to accomplish by titling your accounts properly, such as a transfer on death, or you can name your beneficiaries in a 401k or an IRA, and that will sufficiently achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve without going through a more formalized establishment of a trust. But if you have a more complicated situation, then it's really important to set up some sort of a formalized estate plan or a trust document. As I mentioned earlier, probate is one of the reasons why people set up trusts, but I also mentioned that there's a lot of other reasons why a trust can be beneficial for you. But what exactly is probate? Probate is when you die and you have no estate plan in place. Then the court steps in and they determine your estate plan for you. So they determine who is the rightful owner of your assets. And if you have not set something up, or if you don't want a particular sibling or a relative to get any of your assets, well, if it goes through probate, guess what? They're actually going to get some of those assets. And the larger your estate, believe me, the more problems and more people are going to come out of the woodwork claiming that they're your long lost relative. Another reason why probate is not ideal is because it's a really long process. Anytime you have courts and attorneys get involved, the process becomes really long. And also, courts and attorneys don't work for free, so it's a very costly process to go through probate. But more importantly, in my opinion, is that probate is a public event. So if your estate goes through probate, then all that is aired out in the public for people to see, whereas a trust is not public. So keep that in mind as you're deciding what type of an estate plan to have in place, because a probate is a public event that would occur. If you want to learn about some ways to avoid probate, look at our article or our next video on steps that you can take to avoid probate in addition to setting up a trust. The other question I get often is, do I need an attorney to set up a trust? The short answer is no, you don't need one. But if you want to avoid problems and additional fees later on down the road, I'd highly recommend you hire an attorney or a professional to set up your trust for you. Obviously, people like do-it-yourself websites such as LegalZoom or other sites like that. But what ends up happening is it ends up causing you more problems later because you have to get an attorney or another professional to fix the problem. And then you end up paying more to fix a problem than you would have had you just paid to get that trust in place or an estate plan in place. And we see this all the time when people try to create their own entity, such as an S Corp or an LLC, and then we realize when they come to us and we're trying to file a tax return that they did it incorrectly, and then they pay us more to fix it, whereas if we just did it correctly in the beginning, there'd be no headaches. So the bottom line is hire a professional. It doesn't cost you that much money. It'll give you peace of mind. And if you need a referral to a professional in your state or in your area, please let us know. We have a very wide network of professionals that we connect with, and we're happy to make an introduction for you. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the ACap Recap. And remember to subscribe, like, and share our videos. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover, please remember to comment in the comment section below or send us an email, and we'll be happy to address it in the next video or a subsequent video. In the meantime, thank you.